Welcome to Cinema Bites,
Hope you enjoyed the Lady Boys.
your go-to for movie recaps in a flash. Big twists, epic moments, all in just minutes. The movie starts in the state of Texas. We see a young man working as an accounting assistant. He arrives late to work again. His name is Desmond. This guy works at one of the largest arms companies called Emotech. Not only is he late, but he also forgot his ID badge at home, so he had to fill out a lengthy form before entering. Then, while taking the elevator, he meets his colleague Samantha, who gives him a watch to help him be more punctual. He thanks her for her help. When he gets to the accounting floor, he sneaks past the desks quietly to reach his own. But his boss, Adam, sees him enter and calls him to his office, warning him that if he's late again and doesn't submit his report, he'll be fired. Desmond promises to improve, but as soon as he returns to his desk, his colleagues Murad and Lint Worf inform him that the company is planning mass layoffs. To make matters worse, the department's deputy manager, Marcus, announces his promotion and mentions that one of them will be fired. Unfortunately, this time, the victim is Lint Worf, who is immediately summoned to the manager's office. Desmond gets scared for his job and rushes to finish his report, but at that moment, he receives a call from Dr. Fr, asking him to come to the Research and Development Department. Desmond obeys and, while walking through the departments, remembers a list of steps to survive at work. First, always carry a clipboard to look busy. Second, know technical jargon to avoid questions and give quick answers. Third, avoid helping other departments to prevent constant requests. Fourth, be cautious of the upper floor departments, as they house the company's crazies. After a few minutes, Desmond arrives at the Research and Development Department and sees the doctor testing a new combat shield. At the same time, the doctor is working on another invention, but to complete it, he needs components he requested months ago, which Desmond hasn't ordered yet. The doctor gets angry and fires a test missile at a piece of meat, making a mess that splatters all over Desmond. Desmond doesn't get too upset, but then the doctor's assistant asks to speak with him urgently. Desmond tries to eavesdrop, but the doctor orders him back to work and shuts the door. Desmond returns to his office, but instead of working, he decides to focus on the last step of his list, starting his own business during work hours. He's developing a computer game as a backup plan in case he gets fired. However, he's also bored with the work routine and tries to convince Murad to do something different, like ordering pizza or playing pranks on other departments. But his colleague, who needs the job, refuses and asks Desmond why he doesn't just quit if he hates the job so much. Desmond tries to explain, but Murad suspects that Desmond is staying at Emotech to be near Samantha. Hearing this, Desmond quickly changes the subject, claiming they're just friends with no romantic feelings. The conversation continues casually until all employees are suddenly summoned to an unexpected conference in the hall. Before heading there, Desmond meets Samantha, who adjusts the alarm on the watch she gave him, worried he might be late again. Then they all go to the conference, led by Franklin, the owner of Emotech. In this conference, the company president unveils a new product they are launching, an energy drink called Zed. He brings out full crates of the drink to distribute among the employees. But Desmond doesn't get one because he has to finish his report, so he leaves the conference and goes to his apartment. There, he meets his roommates, Freddie and Sam, who invite him to play Mario Kart. Desmond refuses because he needs to secure his job to pay the bills. But when his little dog shows up dressed as Yoshi, he changes his mind immediately. The group starts playing, but instead of a video game race, they have a real race with shopping carts. The competition is fierce, but Desmond wins. Afterward, he returns to his computer to finish his work. The next morning, he wakes up thinking the report is complete, but the program shows there are about 2,000 grammatical errors, which isn't acceptable. When he reaches the company entrance, he realizes he forgot his ID badge again. But since the security guard isn't at his booth, Desmond manages to enter and rushes to his desk. He doesn't notice a dead receptionist slumped over the desk with a cup stuck to their face. Things get weirder as he walks through corridors filled with blood and employees lying on the floor. Still, Desmond is focused on his report and doesn't notice anything. To avoid being late, he prints everything despite the errors. A few seconds later, his boss Adam calls him to his office. When Desmond arrives, he notices a can of the energy drink from Franklin's conference on the desk. Looking to the side, he sees one of the supervisors dead, with dozens of pens stabbed into his back. Shocked, Desmond asks what happened. His boss says he killed him because he made too many mistakes at work and insists on making his department the most efficient in the company. But as soon as Adam starts reading Desmond's error-filled report, he snaps and decides to make Desmond his next target. In a sudden attack, Adam throws Desmond through the door, sending him crashing to the other side. The noise alerts the other employees, who rise from their desks, angry and strange-looking, their veins bulging as if about to burst. They all charge at Desmond, who runs down the corridor. In one of the rooms, he sees his two colleagues working and asks them what's going on. One of them says he needs to finish his work, taking another sip of Zed. Desmond, still confused, decides to leave but accidentally steps on an electrical wire, cutting power to his colleague's computer. When his colleague sees his work lost, he loses control and slams Desmond against the wall. Desmond tries to recover, but his colleague leaps at him, attempting to kill him. Struggling to breathe, Desmond searches for something to defend himself with, finding a notebook, which he uses to hit his colleague on the head. Unfortunately, the notebook splits in two, and the man falls, impaling his neck on one of the halves, dying instantly. Horrified, Desmond tries to call one of the employees for help, but before she can do anything, her colleague hits her on the head because he too had drunk the energy drink. With no one to help, Desmond wonders how to escape. He notices that the affected employees attack anyone who disrupts their work, so he decides to avoid them. He grabs another clipboard to appear busy. As he walks through the corridors, he sees the marketing team playing soccer with a severed head. When they noticed Desmond, they asked him. He proposed a slogan for the campaign of Zed, and although he was attached to his list, the young man decided to help them and presented an idea they liked, allowing him to continue his path normally. After that, Desmond ran up the stairs quickly, but when the alarm clock rang, he remembered he had forgotten Samantha, who was surely still in the building. He rushed to his office and found the girl fine, but there was a can of Zed on the desk. She had drunk half of it. Nevertheless, he called out to her so they could escape from there. But the moment he grabbed her arm, Samantha was overtaken by the drink's effect and attacked him. Desmond tried to defend himself, but his colleague was stronger than before and threw him toward the desk. In the end, she tried to kill him with her hands. But the young man found a book next to the desk and used it to knock her out. Afterward, he tied Samantha up in a driving chair with duct tape. When she came to, she said she didn't remember what had happened. But there was no time for explanation, so he hurried to take her to a safe place. The two hid in a storage room, but inside they found Murad, who suddenly tried to attack. However, the boy managed to lock him in the closet. Luckily, Murad wasn't infected because he had been fasting that week and hadn't consumed the Zed energy drink. The three decided to escape quickly, but on the other side of the door they saw the accounting team, led by Adam, arguing with Bob, the head of the marketing team. They were debating who was better suited to run the company. Bob challenged Adam and threw a can of Zed at him, but Adam caught it in midair. Using his strength, he turned it into a boomerang and threw it at Bob's neck, decapitating him. Realizing the situation was far more dangerous than they had thought, the three waited for Adam's team to leave before running toward the stairs. However, when they got there, they found the stairs blocked by infected employees attacking each other like zombies. The three fled into another room, and Desmond came up with the idea of trying to escape through the window. To do so, he threw a printer out of the window, but this activated the security system, causing the building to be sealed with sturdy metal panels. Now, the only way to disable the security system and escape the building was to retrieve the access code from the manager. The problem was that to reach the manager, they had to pass through all the other departments, which were likely infected by the energy drink. The three continued, and in the first department, they pretended to be infected to pass safely among their colleagues. The plan worked, and they reached the end of the corridor, where they were met by Helen, Adam's secretary. She too was infected by the Zed drink. Desmond grabbed a vase and hit the old woman in the face, knocking her to the ground. His friends scolded him for his exaggerated reaction, but when they looked back at Helen, they found she had disappeared. Seconds later, the old woman appeared behind Murad and tried to bite him, but he managed to escape, causing her to hit her head against the wall. After resolving this issue, the group continued to the Human Resources Department, which was full of angry female employees. At the same moment, Lentworth appeared in the department, carrying his belongings from his desk and asking about the money he was owed. But when he saw the disfigured corpse of one of the employees on the ground, Lentworth was startled and dropped the box containing his belongings. This action enraged the Human Resources employees, who were about to kill him on the spot. Suddenly, he ran into the adjacent room and used the radio to send a message to the employees, telling them they had to go to the other room for a meeting. The idea seemed to work, but the boy went crazy while talking on the radio, and the infected employees realized it was just a trick. The situation became even more dangerous, but Samantha decided to help. She told the employees that their supervisor had spread many rumors about them throughout the company. Then, she ordered them all to attack the supervisor. The enraged employees ran to finish off the supervisor, clearing the way to the next department. But this department was guarded by the most dangerous employees in the company, the sales representatives. However, there was no other way to reach the manager's office. Desmond and Murad went to the storage room, searching for anything they could use as weapons. There, they made temporary spears out of broomsticks and protective shields from paper bundles. They were ready for the confrontation, but before they went, Samantha asked them to untie her, saying they would need all the help they could get to pass through the sales department. Although Desmond was hesitant, he untied her, and the four headed to the room to face the infected. Desmond tried to ask them to let them pass peacefully, but the sales representatives refused and attacked them. The group of four fought back, and a chaotic battle ensued. Desmond used his agility to dodge attacks and strike the infected. Lentworth, though not as quick as his colleague, managed to land blows on the opponents with his sharp spears. Murad, being peaceful, didn't want to hurt anyone but accidentally took out infected individuals who approached him using scissors. Finally, Samantha utilized the effects of the Zed drink, attacking the monsters with swift strikes. However, all this effort was taking a toll on her. After defeating them all, the group continued to Franklin's office, but he refused to open the door, thinking they were infected too. What he didn't know was that the janitor opened the door to take out the trash, leaving the way open for the group to enter. The four went to Franklin's office, where he tried to explain what had happened. But Desmond insisted on knowing what had happened to the employees and what Zed was doing. After calming the situation, the company's president explained that the energy drink was initially made for the military to keep soldiers focused and fast in combat. However, the first batch of the product had errors in its formula, and Franklin had ordered it to be disposed of. But Dr. FR's assistant had distributed it to the employees as a form of revenge against his boss. As a result, everyone was infected and now fought to the death like zombies against anyone who disrupted their work production. After learning the truth, Desmond asked Franklin to find a way to restore the situation and save Samantha, whose condition was worsening. But the company president said that only Dr. Frum, who had created the Zed formula, could find a way to make an antidote. So Desmond decided to search for him in the lab. But before he could go, Adam and his army of infected appeared on the other side of the room, demanding that Franklin hand over the building's security system. Otherwise, they would storm the room and kill everyone inside. But the company president confidently replied that the doors were made of sturdy metal, and there was no way they could break in. The problem was that the madman had only paid to reinforce the doors, while the walls were made of wood. When Adam realized this, he ordered his men to break through the walls with their axes, and soon they would be able to get in. Desmond and Murad hurried to make a barricade, but suddenly Linton Worf appeared holding a can. The old man, Zed, said that to keep his job and make a living, he was ready to drink the drink and join the infected team. But instead of welcoming him, the madman struck him with an axe in the stomach, dragging him out of the room. After that, the infected started storming the room, and Desmond and Murad ran to Franklin's room, who wasn't planning to surrender without a fight. Franklin was armed with a shotgun and used it to shoot the zombies trying to enter through the door. He surprised everyone and managed to hold the fight with ease. However, when one of the infected grabbed him from the table, Desmond rushed to help him, hitting the infected on the head with a phone. Thanks to this assistance, Franklin regained his composure, but he was suddenly struck by an axe from Adam, which severed his arm. Afterward, Adam took Franklin's shotgun and destroyed the creature's head with a bullet, becoming the new head of Emotech. Not only that, but now he had Franklin's hand, which allowed him to disable the security system and leave the building to begin his plan for world domination. There was no chance to escape this situation. Desmond tried to propose a truce, saying he was resigning from the job, but the villain rejected the request and ordered his infected followers to finish him off quickly. Desmond grabbed the shotgun and aimed it at the opponents, but there was only one bullet left in the weapon. Luckily, Franklin had left a vase filled with more bullets. The young man shot at the vase, causing the bullets to explode and injure all the infected, allowing Desmond to escape the problem. But another issue arose when Samantha began feeling ill from the effects of Zed. The two friends took her to the lab, and luckily Dr. Fromm was still alive. However, Desmond blamed the doctor for everything that happened. The doctor said that the young man was also responsible because he didn't fulfill the ingredient request, forcing the doctor to use alternative materials. This resulted in the contaminated batch of the energy drink. The doctor also mentioned that Samantha could be saved since she consumed a small dose of Zed, giving them a chance to reverse the effects. But they had to create the antidote within 30 minutes, or the substance would irreparably damage her brain. Desmond wasn't willing to let that happen and asked the doctor what he needed to create the antidote quickly. The doctor revealed that the company's storage held the necessary ingredients, but the place was surrounded by Adam and his infected followers. Based on this, Desmond and Murad decided to confront them, but this time they needed real weapons. The two went to the factory and took many weapons, including a flamethrower, for the final battle. When they reached the storage, they found the box containing the antidote ingredients, but Adam saw them through surveillance cameras and ordered his army of infected to go after them. Desmond planted landmines for the infected, waiting for one to explode but to no avail. The enemies kept approaching, This forced Murad to activate the flamethrower and shoot fire everywhere, managing to push the infected back. However, Murad overdid it, spilling all the flammable liquid. The two retreated defensively and fled through the storage corridors, with the infected chasing them. But the two managed to hide on top of the shelves. Suddenly, Desmond threw a box full of Zed energy drink cans at the enemies. They all rushed to drink the energy drink. Thanks to this distraction, Murad pushed a cart toward the exit. Desmond used his weapon to shoot the infected. More enemies began pursuing them, so the young man drew 2 pistols and managed to shoot everyone who tried to approach. After this confrontation, the two found the box containing the ingredients. Desmond climbed the shelf to retrieve it, but at that moment, Adam appeared wearing the armor created by Dr. Fr. He fired a rocket toward Desmond, but fortunately, Desmond managed to escape the explosion. Neither he nor Murad had enough strength to stop Adam, so the two hid behind the shelves. To save Samantha, Desmond handed the ingredients to Murad to take to her and decided to face Adam alone. His companion followed his instructions and ran toward the exit, but was surprised by an attack from Marcus, who was also infected by Zed. Marcus attacked him relentlessly, but when Marcus dropped his key, Murad seized the opportunity and struck him in the leg. Murad then abandoned his weapon and hit Marcus with a wooden plank, allowing him to run to meet Samantha. Meanwhile, Desmond armed himself and tried to find an opportunity to attack Adam, but due to Adam's technological armor, the young man couldn't confront him directly. Instead, he began taunting Adam with insults, leading him into a trap. The villain fell for it, and Desmond took the chance to escape. However, one of the infected grabbed him and pinned him against the wall. Adam realized he had been tricked and went to where Desmond was, preparing a rocket launcher for the final blow. Everything seemed lost, but a rocket struck Adam's armor, distracting him. The one who fired the rocket was Samantha, who had returned to help Desmond. She had now fully recovered from the energy drink. Despite this, Adam managed to recover from the hit. Using one of Marcus's arms, he powered the machine that restored all his strength. With an enemy nearly impossible to defeat, Desmond, Samantha, and Murad ran out of the building, planting explosives on every floor. They eventually reached the Emetech Museum, but Adam appeared right behind them, preparing his weapons to finish off all 3. Seeing the villain approaching, Desmond tried to detonate the explosives, but the 3 of them were out of time. As a last resort, Desmond threw the last remaining landmine and shot it under Adam's feet. The villain, unaware, stepped on it, triggering a chain reaction that destroyed the entire Emetech building. The 3 barely managed to escape the explosion and pass through Emetech's gates as the only survivors of the disaster. After this strange experience, Desmond decided not to waste any more time and confessed his true feelings to Samantha. She turned out to feel the same way. Now that they were together, Desmond took the opportunity to show his fiancée his game project. Later, the police arrived and surrounded the area to take control of the situation. And that's the end of the movie. See you in the next movie. Thank you for watching.